There, the fighting was in Ib City, south of the capital Sana'a. Witnesses said they heard gunfire and saw government supporters wielding batons and throwing stones. Yemen is allegedly a hub for Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. The US worried that the upheaval across the Arab world could further destabilize the country. Kimberly Halkett reports.
As thousands of anti-government protesters continue to rally in Yemen, in Washington, lawmakers meet to discuss what they say is now America's most urgent national security threat.
The ramifications are all going to be very real as we look at the changing nature of what's going on in Yemen, a protected stronghold for Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula.
The Al-Qaeda group has been on Washington's radar for some time. It's suspected of waging a campaign to radicalize U.S. citizens, even inspiring Nidal Hassan, the man charged with killing 13 people at a U.S. Army base in Texas. So last month, the Pentagon doubled its military assistance to the Yemen government to fight Al-Qaeda. But mounting anti-government protests in Yemen are making Washington nervous about its allies' future. What happens if the government falls? It's a question AlJazeera put to the U.S. State Department.
Yes, Yemen is a very important country to the United States.
So what impact does this unrest have on that security concern?
Well, they're not mutually, they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, there is a genuine security concern in Yemen that is a concern for Yemen and for the United States.
But members of the Yemeni American community argue the Al-Qaeda threat in Yemen is overstated. If the government collapses, they say Al-Qaeda would have little support.
Al-Qaeda has no base with the Yemeni people. Al-Qaeda is hated in Yemen.
Despite the challenges of the Yemen protests, Washington's hopeful any imminent threats can still be contained. Kimberly Halkett, AlJazeera, Washington.
Just ahead in this program, sayonara, where the Japanese foreign minister has said goodbye after less than half a year in the job. And grabbing the geckos, we'll take you on a night hunt in Indonesia when we return.
Hello, we've got more in the way of southerly winds pushing temperatures up across the Arabian Peninsula. So here in Doha, we'll see highs of around 26 Celsius on Monday afternoon. Similar values there for Abu Dhabi. It's not all wall-to-wall sunshine, though. A chance of some showers just around that southern end of the Red Sea. And I think as we go on through the next day or so, maybe one or two of those showers tended to push inland. But for the most part, it will be dry. And here in Doha, as I said, those temperatures pushing up, so we may well get up to 27 Celsius by Tuesday. Generally dry too across a good part of Iran. Pakistan generally dry as well, but still got some snow coming out of Afghanistan into the far north of India. Much of India will stay fine and dry. Northern half of Sri Lanka should stay fine and dry, but always a threat of a few showers across southern parts of the country over the next couple of days, so that could still affect the cricket in the coming days. Heavy showers continue through Madagascar, Mozambique, Tanzania, quite widespread showers these now. They're running their way all the way back into Zambia. Botswana, Angola could see some wet weather, but for South Africa it is generally set fair. Johannesburg at around 29 Celsius, more in the way of sunshine here. More in the way of sunshine to come into much of Argentina, but some showers pushing in here. It stays very wet indeed across the Amazon basin.
The relocation of the Ahmadiyya has magnified the issue of religious intolerance in Indonesia. Is this inevitable in a multicultural society? And is the government turning a blind eye?
101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines,
most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story at this time on Al Jazeera.
reminding you of the main developments in Libya. Rebels continuing to fight pro-Gaddafi forces for control of Bin Jawad. They've been bombarding government position with rocket launchers. In the Libyan capital Tripoli, thousands of people gathered to support Muammar Gaddafi, celebrating claims from the government that the rebels have been crushed and that fallen cities have been retaken. Now, in Bahrain, the protests are still going on in the capital Manama as the campaign for democratic reform enters week 3. Demonstrators still camped out at Pearl Roundabout, which was the centre of the anti-government protests, and thousands more people blocked the entrance to the Prime Minister's office at Gudabia, the palace there, on Sunday. Police with riot shields stood behind one gate and prevented them from disrupting a cabinet meeting. The Shia majority has long complained of discrimination and political persecution in the island kingdom. The Sunni Muslim Khalifa family rules Bahrain, which is a strategic US ally and home to the US Fifth Fleet. Our special correspondent joins us on the phone from Manama, not naming him for security reasons. So tell me, with these protesters, do they feel they've gained any ground in the last 3 weeks?
That's a good question. They've certainly made themselves heard. On Sunday morning, they were outside the Prime Minister's office, and they were very vocal in their demands. They're not only not in as big numbers as we've seen in the last few days, which have seen protests of tens of thousands. Today, rather smaller, but very loud and very angry. They're demanding not only that there's a new cabinet, a new constitution, but actually a lot of the protesters were calling for the overthrow of the monarchy, no less. They obviously haven't got that. What they have got is permission to camp out here at Pearl Roundabout in the centre of Manama, which was the scene of some of the clashes following the start of protests in February, those protests which led to the deaths of 7 people. Now, there's quite a strange atmosphere here because it's very, very relaxed. It's more like a festival than anything else, with food tents, art tents, political discussion tents, and every night hundreds of people head here, apart from the people who are sleeping out here at Pearl Roundabout. But at the same time, they haven't actually got, as I was just saying, any of those political concessions yet from the government.
The government would maintain that it has offered some compromises, and if there is a celebratory mood, it might well be simply because they're still where they are, the protesters. But in terms of the long term with regard to this, it looks like it's going to be a process of attrition.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think that possibly some of the Bahraini authorities are hoping that basically the protesters will get tired and go home. But I don't see that happening. They seem to be here for the long run. They're very well equipped at Pearl Roundabout. They've got tents set up. They've got electricity. They've got generators. They've got medical tents. They've got satellite dishes to watch TV and so on. But more than that, they say that they're really pushing, and they've been inspired by events across the region. They're pushing for nothing less, and that they deserve nothing less than what the people of, for example, Egypt got, which was basically pushing out